So I'm still reviewing films on this old computer because I haven't had a chance to take my new computer in to the Mac store to get the microphone fixed. So hi everybody on this really old computer. But today's movie, I should have seen it in theaters. I feel like I've cheated myself out of a magnificent experience. However, I'm again glad that I got it on DVD or Blu-ray actually. This is Venom, which I realized this computer, while it will flip photos, will not flip videos. So not only are you not seeing Venom spelled the right way because it's flipped like a mirror, you're seeing evil face me. However, I think flipped evil face me is perfect for Venom. So I don't know much about Venom other than the handful of times he showed up on the Fox cartoon version of Spider-Man, and I did not see Spider-Man 3. So I never read the comics, so I don't really know anything going into Venom, except that he's sort of kind of like Deadpool in that he's an anti-hero who's a little bit comical, not comical, but comic, wisecracking, and wasn't a villain, but now an anti-hero. And that's very much how they go in this film. It's directed by Ruben Fleischer, who did a couple of films I really liked, like Zombieland, and then one that I really, really, really hated. Is it 30 Minutes or Less, I think is what it's called. I really hated that one. Zombieland I enjoyed. Zombieland was one of my favorite movies the year that came out, partly because it was such a great cinematic experience. I saw it with my brother, and we chortled through the whole movie. Much like Venom, where follow me on Twitter, and if you're watching my YouTube videos and you don't follow me on Twitter, I don't what. It's very strange. I did a live tweet of this film because I highly enjoyed watching it, and I laughed continually. This is a comedy, and the fact that Tom Hardy is not getting any acting nods for this when he acts his ass off in this movie as two different, very distinctive characters. And he's so bonkers, and the movie's bonkers, but he's even more bonkers, and all of this bonkersness totally works. And yeah, there are some moments of character development that are missing, and bits and pieces that don't quite work overall, but then the whole thing totally works because it's great and enjoyable, and Tom Hardy just like sails through, and doesn't sail through, like he like, oh my god, he's so good. He's such a good actor, it's ridiculous. So the plot is that Tom Hardy is a journalist called Eddie Brock, who is an investigative journalist, and he is about to land an interview with an Elon Musk type dude who's also a bit of a farmer bro. Meanwhile, this Elon Musk-esque dude played by Riz Ahmed has just had one of his rockets come back from space with aliens on it, but the aliens are these like liquid creature things that later turn into Venom. So he is testing all kinds of stuff because it's privately financed, because he was a boy wonder who cured cancer, right? So he's doing all kinds of things unregulated, including human testing and stuff like that. This movie fits into the 2018 Bay Area crisis canon. And by Bay Area crisis canon, I include Boots Riley's Sorry to Bother You, Blindspotting, and Black Panther. All of these films talk a little bit about Black Panther, a little less, but they all talk about the current crisis in the Bay Area with housing and tech companies coming in. And like it was bad in the 90s, and now it's like way worse now. And this film in particular talks about the way in which homeless people are looked at as disposable. They look at as disposable guinea pigs for the Riz Ahmed's character, the villain character. And they're humanized by the Eddie Brock character, who actually knows his neighborhood and knows his neighborhood inhabitants, right? And then those worlds collide, you'll see. One of the symbiotes has made it out of the crash and is making its way to San Francisco. Meanwhile, the evil scientists have brought the ones that they had, and they're testing it. There is a scientist who finally the ethical line gets crossed with human testing, played by Jenny Slate. Jenny Slate is amazing. And so she tries to find this journalist to try to, break the story and get things fixed so that they're not killing human people, specifically marginalized homeless people. And this leads, obviously, to Eddie Brock's character meeting the symbiote and becoming Venom. However, this is where the movie leaves sort of its horror, The Thing type plot and becomes a very queer romantic comedy. And yes, this happens, and it's canon, and they don't talk about it when they talk about this movie, but they should, because that's who's watching this movie, and that's who's going to give it a new life. I watched all the special features. I've been running these Blu-rays, and they just autoplay special features, so I watched them, and never once did they talk about the fact that it becomes this, like, queer romantic comedy where this symbiote, Venom, is living inside of Eddie's body, and they are a bickering couple who clearly love each other and who help each other become better people. And it's fantastic. And there's a couple of deleted and expanded scenes that, like, riff on this growing relationship, and it's delightful. Then there's a sequence. So I didn't talk about Michelle Williams. Her character is okay, and she's only slightly better because Michelle Williams adds depth where there is no depth. But because you have this breakup that happens between the Eddie character and Michelle Williams' character, you then have Venom and Eddie, who are both into her. And then you kind of have this, like, pansexual, polyamorous thing going on. And I'm like, there's an actual line that Venom says where he says at the end, she should be with us. That's said. That's canon. It was said. So I've decided that, and I and the entirety of Tumblr have decided that this is a new queer cult classic, and you should see it with that lens because it is delightful. But also there's some really just utterly hilarious lines, mostly like zingers from Venom, but some of the comedy just comes from the ridiculously that is the Eddie Brock character, who was this kind of failing upward dude, except that he fails downward, who really does just see the goodness in people and tries for that, and the mixture of him and his trying for the right thing and Venom's, like, wisecracking eats people's heads off thing is just a beautiful combination. There's a sequence where when he first gets the symbiote in his body and he doesn't know what to do, and he tries to find Michelle Williams' character, and she has a boyfriend now who just happens to be a doctor, because that's how these things work, and they're in this, like, fancy restaurant, and he's trying to control Venom, and he hasn't figured that out yet. And Venom needs to eat live things, and they're in this restaurant, and they're trying to find live things, but everything's dead because, we eat dead meat, except for me, I don't eat meat. But he ends up in a lobster tank eating the live lobsters, because that's the only living non-human things in the area. And it is a piece of slapstick perfection out of What's Up, Doc? It ends up feeling like that scene in What's Up, Doc, where the curtains are on fire, and Barbara Streisand's in her towel hanging out the window, and Ryan O'Neal just leaves. Like, that's how that scene ends, and it's so good. It's, like, so good. And then the final sequence, which is actually spoiled in the trailer, has, like, the best final line where Tom Hardy's as Eddie goes, yeah, after he eats the head off of somebody in front of one of his neighborhood friends, he goes, yeah, I have a parasite, and it's so funny. It's perfect. So I want the sequel to be just a straight-up comedy romance. Like, that's what I want. That's what it should be. The other thing I wanted to mention about the film was that it is a San Francisco film. It's set in San Francisco. It even starts with him wearing one of the city shirts. But he's a transplant, because only transplants wear those shirts. It's a transplant, I think, supposed to be from New York-ish. And they shot parts of it in San Francisco to things that you can't recreate, like Chinatown. But then they shot a whole bunch of it here in Atlanta, and there's one sequence in particular where I was like, that theater doesn't exist in San Francisco. It's a theater on SF State, or Atlanta State, Georgia State's campus. But if you don't know your San Francisco and you don't know your Atlanta, you wouldn't necessarily know that they've combined these two cities. But for people like me who've lived in both, I'm like, okay, well, that is in one part of San Francisco and this is here in Atlanta. But actually, with the lighting and everything, you did a good job. So that was fun, but also kept pulling me out because I was like, no, the geography's wrong. The special features also talk a lot about the various inspirations from the comics and the Easter eggs dropped throughout that I found very illuminating to watch after seeing the film. I liked this a lot. I highly enjoyed it. Thought it was hilarious, and for all of its failings, like the failings are like down here, and the bonkers amazing energy is up here, and I'm just gonna stay up here, and like I don't care about this. The only time failings really affect my ability to enjoy a film is if the energy level and the excitement and how much I'm enjoying it is also down there, and then it's just all failings. That's how or if they cross like a line in my moral compass, which they didn't do. So I liked this. I wish I'd seen it in theaters. I feel like I've cheated myself out of a great 2018 cinematic experience, but you can watch it now, and Tom Hardy should have gotten a Golden Globe nomination for that category that they just throw everything in that they know isn't a drama. See if it sticks, because no one did anything like this performance last year. Nobody. And nobody could do such a thing because Tom Hardy is such a complex actor that he can do this. So it's Venom. You should rent it. I recommend it. I thought it was good. Sorry that I'm still recording on this old computer, but everyone say thank you to this old computer. It's like 15 years old and it's still functioning. That's something. Venom, quite good.